Hi, this is Randy, and we're back with wanting to test our DNS install on our Linux box. And I got to tell you that when I first rebooted, it didn't work, and I want to go in and show you a couple things before we move forward. And I think this is my third time to install it today. Getting ready for the videos, and twice I've run into little problems. So let me show you what I missed. I missed a couple steps in our install video. So all this looks good. We go on here. This all looks good. We had our NS record, but what we didn't have was we didn't have the IP addresses for this. And so let me go. And by the way, that period at the end is correct. That should be there. I don't know if you can see that .com . So what I needed to do was I needed to go in and add the A and Quad A records for the LNX box. Now I want you to notice that the address that I have here, let me highlight, see if we can do that. The 198.187.236.39, that is the external address. That is what, for IPv4 from the internet, that's the address that will be used to get to the server. Now remember from the drawing that that's actually the external interface of our firewall. But on the firewall, it listens for port 53, and then it uses network address translation, and then comes inside to the server. So I want you to see that. Now for IPv6, that's not the case. There's my IPv6 address. That is just a routed port 53, no network address translation. So if you have any questions on that about why the 198 address was used for LNX, remember this is split brain. This is the internet side of it. On our internal server for LNX, we would use the 192 address, 192.168. So if you stop and think about that, that's a really good demonstration of how split brain works. How from the internet the Linux server is viewed one way by IP address for version 4, and internally it's viewed a different way using a private IP address. Okay, so I made those changes. Actually, all I did was add the LNX records and rebooted the server one more time. Let me go ahead and cancel out of this, and let's open a command prompt and start locally. So we're going to test here locally. I'm going to do nslookup. And I need to specify the server. So one thing that I can do is I can use the loopback 127.0.0.1. I could do that, and that would take me actually inside the firewall. And so I could ask it for bogus.hi.bobstaco.com. And you can see that I get my values here. Now these values, they are truly bogus, and as I mentioned before, all they're there for is just to let me know that the answer is coming from this server. So put in whatever you would recognize, whatever you'd recognize. Let me switch now and go to server and use 192.168. In my case, it's .19.100. This is its internal address, and I can ask it now the same thing, bogus.hi.bobstaco.com. And when it works, this becomes fairly repetitious, but honestly, if it's working, you should kind of be glad and say, wow, this is cool, great, because you're doing it. You got it done. So from the server's terminal or console, I can talk to my own server on port 53 and ask questions and get answers. So let's move one step away. Let's switch now over to a Windows 10 machine. So Windows 10 machine here, and I'm going to again use nslookup, and I'm going to say server 192.168.19.100. Now again, this Windows 10 machine is inside the firewall, and so this is the address it uses to get to the Linux server. Now we're doing our testing under IPv4 for the sake of time with the video, but we would also want to test under IPv6, absolutely. But I'm just doing IPv4. So I say for that server there, and I ask it the same question: bogus.hi.bobstaco.com. Okay, took it a minute there, a little bit worried. My heart skipped a beat, but anyways, it came back and it's happy. Now, the last test then is to move outside, and out onto the internet. And this test takes into account the firewall. It takes into account all kinds of stuff. So this is like the big test. And you can do this a couple different ways. Now, again, you got to take my word for it here, but I've remoted into a machine that's miles away. It's across the internet. The path from this machine to get here is hundreds of miles, actually. It takes a roundabout way. And I could just do something as simple as this. I could say ping bogus.hi.bobstaco.com. And this will absolutely has to look that up. And the only server authoritative to look that up, bogus.hi, remember the HI zone was delegated to my server. And so for this to work, my server has to be up and running, my Linux server. Okay, it comes back. Now, pinging isn't going to answer because that's a phony address, but it did resolve. Okay, so let me interrupt that. And it's very easy using the ping just to add a -6 to the end and say, okay, instead of the IPv4 address, give me the IPv6 address. And you can see that, oh, this is a cached lookup. Let me try one thing here. Oh, my video is getting long again. That value there, FD00, that was a value I used on a earlier testing. So let me do an IP config /flush DNS. Okay, and let me clear, and let's try that again. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, this is a good thing there. A good learning point there is you saw I had a cache value, and I using ipconfig /flush DNS. This is a Windows machine I'm remoted into, and that's the correct command on a Windows machine. I flushed the cache, and now it's giving me the most current entry for my bogus value. So we did it. We installed a little bit of glitch there, and I had to go in and add the IP address, IPv4 and IPv6 addresses for the LNX host. Think, well, Randy, you're going a little too fast. Tell me about that again. That was in here. This video, again, I'm sorry these videos get a little bit longer than I'd like. But I went into here, and I said initially when I rebooted the server it didn't work. And I came in here just to check my work. And I had this value, but I didn't have the records, the A and the quad A record for it. Added those and rebooted, and then it worked. And I tell you, troubleshooting, you know, we're sometimes never 100% sure of what causes or doesn't cause problems. But I'm just telling you what happened here. The other thing that I've seen in times past is that the server won't start. Excuse me. The server won't start, or the firewall ports won't be open. Even though you said that they should be during installation, you can come back in here and find out that the server itself isn't running, or that the firewall ports are not open, and so that's another gotcha. And again, you think, well, why is it so finicky? It's what we're doing is we're approaching Linux from using a graphical interface, using YAST, and that's not its native life. Linux lives on the command line. If we're doing this in the command line, we'd be editing text files, and that would be 100% accurate. But given the flexibility of using the graphical interface, we live with these little bit of inconsistencies. Now, once it's up and running like it is now, I'm confident. I can go into my zone and I need to add like a www record and RDP, and I got some records I need to add. Those are going to be rock solid. Once you get it installed and you know you reboot the server and it comes up, you're good. It'll run like this for a very long time without any issues. All right, we're at 9 minutes. So we did it. We're done. We're done with everything about DNS on Linux, and we'll wrap up this series of videos and move on to whatever's next. Probably Samba's probably next.